Hi folks, you're with Tassus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for joining this live stream. In this chat, I'd like to talk about the preparedness of Western citizens, particularly white citizens, but any citizen, in fact, their preparedness to lay down their lives to defend the country. So, they're prepared to they may be drafted at the point of a gun, but are they prepared to go out of their way with any zeal or dash or elan to defeat an enemy and defend and protect the country and so on? There have been a few studies that have gone around, one in Australia and so on. Now, some of it's opinion, some of it's based in interviews, but the bottom line of it is, in all of these papers, and you could maybe call them white papers, I suppose, in all of these papers, the authors have taken the view that there are so few people left in Western countries who are prepared to lay down their lives or protect or defend the country, other than perhaps a professional military, which are usually quite small. And as a result, if there is any conflict that does involve boots on the ground, rather than sitting in a room somewhere with just handling a joystick and looking at a screen, if there is anything that involves that level of conflict and involves any sort of mass mobilization of the population, that there isn't the heart in it. There are just so few people now that are prepared to step up and defend the country and defend the West generally, that if it's a boots on the ground war, the West has already lost is the general message. Now, this is hardly surprising. For decades now, the globalists have tried to crush the nation state, crush white people, because they want to move millions upon millions, tens of millions of black and brown people into the West, where the economies are the strongest. They want to move as many people over there as they can, or into the West as they can. So we've got a number of things in the education system. The students and the children are being trained and indoctrinated to hate the West, to hate white people, to hate white history, to hate white achievements, to hate everything, anything and everything that's white is now the subject of hate. In fact, the only zeal and energy you see these people employ is to hate white people. Haven't got energy for anything else, only that. Climate change, maybe. So, and that's all white people's fault too. So, typically the soldiers that are going to be on the front line, the ones that can take the most difficult front line fighting conditions, are between the age of 18 and say 22. So I can't imagine there's going to be many kids in that group, many young adults in that group who are prepared to lay down their life. They've been taught to hate white people. And then you've got the immigrants. So the white people have been taught to hate white people. Then you've got all the masses of immigrants coming in. Now, a lot of Western countries now, the immigrants in that age group are between 30 and 45% so of the population. So typically they've just come to the West to get free stuff, and they're extremely entitled. Hey, buddy, we've just come to get the free stuff. I'm not going to put myself out or risk getting shot or anything like that. You've got the possibility among, say, there's high unemployment among these migrants. They'll be attracted by the paycheck, but then they'll be like the Afghan soldiers that came along to collect their pay, then disappeared for the next week or so until the next payday came around. So these people are hardly going to be motivated to go out there and give a good account of themselves. Far from it. So straight away you've lost, say, 35 to 40% of the possible recruits there. Most of the white people, they've been taught to hate the West, and hate white people, hate everything that the Western white countries stand for. So why should they fight and lay down their lives and take it to an enemy who's putting boots on the ground? Gee, I don't think they will. So if you look at, then you've got the older people who are really too old to be fighting a boots on the ground war. They'd be maybe useful in support services and logistics and so on. Then you've got women now. They're looking at drafting women into Western armed services, and this is possibly because they just won't find enough white guys that want to risk their lives. But I just can't see. I mean, are there lots of bull butch dykes who are prepared to charge into the enemy or something like that? I don't think so. Certainly not enough of them. So I can't imagine that they're going to do anything other than maybe fiddle with joysticks in a back room and try and swarm the enemy with some sort of aircraft and the like. So that's a possibility, and that's certainly going to have a place in future wars. So maybe that. Maybe they're going to use these women to shame the men. Say, look at these little tiny, 5 foot tall, 100-pound girls that we're putting in there with full lipstick and makeup, by the way, that we're putting into the front line. You men should be ashamed of yourselves. You go and protect that little girl. What happens if the enemy comes along and tears her blouse and tries to rape her? She'll cry. You have to get out there, guys, and you've got to protect her. So maybe there's some play in that. I don't know. But if you look at the whole thing, there's not really many people, other than the professional army, that's in Australia's case is quite small. In fact, the entire armed services are less than 100,000. That includes Navy, Air Force, Army, everything. So if there was a boots on the ground war, I don't think, and there are others that are saying this, it's difficult. No, I don't think it's difficult to imagine that there would be enough people who would be enthusiastic or prepared to, with great motivation and zeal and dash, to get out there and do the difficult thing and run the risk of getting shot. And you can see a huge difference. There are countries that have lost confidence and faith in themselves. They don't believe in their country. They don't believe in their government. They don't believe in the way things are being done. And so it comes across. A classic example of that was, say, in World War II, when the French and the British went down like a deck of cards. Then the German troops were very motivated, very keen. They were really going the extra yard, whereas the French and the British were very, very half-hearted about it, and they were prepared to retreat. They were prepared to surrender at the drop of a hat. These sorts of things. Not that there weren't brave people there. There were. Not that there weren't people that tried hard, but overall, the difference in motivation, preparedness, attitude, focus, concentration, the difference was stark, and that's why the Allied forces in 1940 were so quickly and easily defeated. There are other reasons. The German plan was pretty good. They certainly had some great concepts about how to employ armor and how to strike decisively at a certain point, that sort of thing. But that aside, one army was very, very motivated and very keen. The other was not, and you can see that difference play out. If you look at all throughout history, nations or city-states, whatever, that are overrun, other than ones that are just completely overwhelmed by absolute force of arms, but typically. And there are rare exceptions, really. Typically, one side loses confidence in itself. It just can't be bothered. It doesn't see any benefit or value in it, or why fight for these idiots? I don't. I think so little of them, or they're treating me so shabbily. Why should I fight for them? That type of thing. So, say for example, men who've had all their, they've had their houses taken away in the divorce court, so they're not allowed to see their children. The state is openly encouraging the children to hate their father and that sort of thing. Now, what's going to happen? You turn around to these guys and say, "Hey, will you fight to protect this society?" No, I don't think so. So you've got a lot of people here that, through the globalist attempt to break down all resistance to globalization, there's no one really there's very few left who are prepared to lay down their lives for the state. And so if there is a boots on the ground war, I don't think the West is going to do very well. Other than materiel and technology, maybe there's an edge that the West has there. But that aside, if it's a boots on the ground war, I think the West's already lost. Put your comments below. This is Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.